What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing you the second deck on the Rui variant update, and that is of course, Rui Swordsoul. Now this is one of the best versions and best updates for the deck in my opinion, because what you do is you sub out all of the Tenyis for the Ruis. The Ruis give you more direct access to your Swordsoul cards, as it does give you the ability to search out worms throughout its plays. On top of that as well, you do use a very spicy True King, which becomes an even more powerful bridge, and that will just allow you to set up Tire a lot easier, meaning that you can set up protection before you even start your Swordsoul plays, or you set up protection even before you consider to start your normal summon, which we all know how powerful it can be in a Swordsoul deck. With that out of the way, please smash that like button and hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, we'll start off with the Swordsoul cards. Pretty straightforward on the lineup for this one. We're going to be going with Triple Moyi as your ideal starter. Reveal a worm in the hand, spawn a token, gives you instant access to that ability into a level 8 synchro, and then gives you a draw when it's sent to the graveyard as synchro material. We've then got Triple Longwan. Now Longwan's actually going to be even more important in this particular version, as there is a card in the Rui lineup, and if you haven't looked into Rui's, I do advise you to do so, that gives you the ability that all level 10 worms gain an additional effect to spin back a continuous Rui card you control to the graveyard to reduce the attack to 0. So what that's going to do, because it includes level 10 worms, is it gives you the ability of making your level 10 synchro worms in the form of the Cheng Ying and of course the Queen Long is going to have that additional ability as well. Now it's not the most broken ability to have, but it's just one of the ones that your opponent will forget about and won't even realise that those cards have them until it's too late. We've then got Triple Ecclesia, which will obviously lead you into a Moyi should you need to. Go in second, it's a great starter as well, because it means that again you save your normal summon, and that's something you're going to want to do with this particular type of deck. We're then playing 2 Tire. Now you can play this at 1 if you wanted to, but the idea is that you want to be summoning this directly from the deck by destroying a worm in the form of the True King Barastos. Now the best thing about Barastos is it's very easily searchable with the entire engine of this particular deck. As I showed you previously in the Rui Invoked version, the card that you're going to want to search when you activate the field spell of the Ruis is going to be the Dino. In this particular version, you just search out a worm card, which of course can be any of your stars if you already hard open up the Barastos. Otherwise, you directly search out the Barastos, because what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be putting a water monster on the board, which means you can summon down the Barastos using its effect to destroy. It will then allow you to trigger the Rui from the extra deck, the Mastava, which will then allow it to summon itself and then destroy, and that of course will help you trigger the ability to destroy the Barastos in order to summon out a Tire direct from the deck, guaranteed to put worms in the graveyard, and then of course you can start using Tire to banish them, which of course will have additional synergy off of the back of the Rui worm, because this one, if it's banished and you banish 2 or more cards, it will then be allowed to summon itself back. So you're going to get even more synergy should you need to at a later point, so keep that secondary effect in the back of your mind. For the rest of the Swordsoul cards, I am playing Triple Emergence, pretty standard on that one, search everything out you need. I'm playing 1 Summit, you don't have to play this, I just quite like the idea that there are ways when you're trying to save your normal summon. It's an additional Swordsoul card that you can reveal. You already have the worms in the deck being the Hakav. I got Hakai in my mind, but that's like Dragon Ball, like, not even that. So, Hakva is your additional one that you're going to be able to search. So, that's the one thing you are going to be losing in this particular version, is when you're taking out all of the Tenyis, it's kind of like 9 additional worms you're taking out. You're adding in a lot less, so you do need to kind of balance that back out with Swordsoul cards in general. But you do have more ways of searching said Swordsoul card, so you're kind of balancing everything out. We've got the 1 Blackout. If you don't want to be playing a Summit, you can play a second Blackout. It is a 42 card deck, so you can also take the Summit out and just kind of cut it down. Then for the Rui monsters, of course, you're going to be maxing out on the Mastava. This is the most expensive Rui card. I do advise you pick these up now. I've seen some people try and sell them for £5. I've seen some people try and sell them for £10 and £12. I feel that if you can get these for £8, it's definitely well worth it. I think you can get an entire core for like £25 on Tier 0 games. So I was fully invested when I found out how many different decks that this could update for me and how many different decks it gives a new variety to. So really loved it. So Mastava searches you out any any Rui card. So for those of you unfamiliar with these cards, I'll go through all of the effects again as I did in my previous profile, but I'll only do it for the first versions of every update in case you're not interested in the Invoke version, but you are the Swordsoul version. So the Pendulum effect is during the main phase, you get to add a non-Pendulum Rui card from the deck to your hand, which will ideally be your Warzone, and I'll talk about that in a second, and then you destroy this card. It must be special summoned via its own effect, and you can only special summon it once per turn. If a monster or monsters on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, which of course Barastos will help you do, you could special summon this card from the deck by tributing a level 10 Rui monster. And if you do, it is treated as a ritual summon. Then you get to apply the following effect to destroy up to 2 cards you control. And if you do, place up to that many Rui continuous spells from the deck face up on the field. So the benefit of that is if you do leave a Dino on the board, or if you do leave a Sea Serpent on the board, they will gain additional effects as well, which we'll see in a little bit. So War Zone is your most important card for the Ruis, because this is the one that's going to allow you to, once you've got your Mistava face up in the extra deck, it's going to allow you to get or flood the board with those dinos. It's going to allow you to search. So when it's activated, you take a Dino, Sea Serpent, and Worm monster from the deck and add one to the hand, banish one, and send one to the graveyard. You can't special summon for the rest of the turn except Dragon, Dino, Sea Serpents, or Worms. And then if you have Mistava face up in the extra deck, you get to special summon 3 Rui monsters with different types. One from the deck, one from the grave, one from the banish zone. You can only use each effect once per turn. So the idea is you get to flood the board with 3 level 10 monsters. You can very instantly, if you don't want to use any of the more effects, overlay those into a Varudras. And basically what you're doing is you're replacing what we used to have with Baron de Fleur by replacing it with a Varudras. Very simple, direct route, protect everything you need to. And then that's going to allow you to go, cool, normal summon, Moyi, reveal, and off you kick. We've then got Kaiva, so we're playing 2 Kaivas, we play 2 of all of the monsters and then 1 of their respective continuous spell cards. All of the monsters have ways to get to their continuous spell cards. In the form of the Kaiva, this one lets you spin back, you shuffle itself from the hand back into the deck to then search you out the domain. And then during the main phase, if 2 or more cards were destroyed at this turn, which does happen because of Barastos, very easily triggered, you get to special summon this card from the hand. You can place 1 domain from the field to the bottom of the deck, and then you get to destroy target cards onto the field up to a number of different monster types on the field and destroy them. So it's a way, as you saw in the Invoked combo, where you can trigger off the destruction effect to trigger out the Mistava. We've then got 2 Hakva. So this one is you get to banish it from the hand to add a Rui Worm Wind spell, which will be this one here, from the deck to the hand. And then if a monster or monsters is banished face up, and this card is already banished, and you now have at least 2 other banished cards that are not itself, which is a little bit convoluted, but makes sense, you get to special summon this card back. You can special summon this banished card, and then you also have the ability to place the Rui Winds you control on the bottom of the deck to add a Rui card from the deck to the hand. So it's the one that searches you out most of the things. It's a little bit trickier to get to the board, but it is a worm, so it's the one that has the best synergy. The worm wins, basically, during your opponent's turn, it's a one-sided macrocosmo. Any card sent to their graveyard is banished instead during their turn only. And then Rui monsters and, level 10 or higher worm monsters and Rui pendulum monsters gain the additional effects. They're a quick effect during your opponent's turn. You place a Rui continuous spell card, even itself. You control it to the bottom of the deck and then target a face-up monster on the field and its attack becomes 0. We've got 2 Enver, so this is the Sea Serpent one. You get to discard this card to add the respective water continuous from the deck to the hand. And then during the main phase, if 2 or more monsters were sent from the hand and or deck to the graveyard this turn, except itself, you get to special summon it. So this is a little bit different to the Hakva, the Hakva is obviously triggered, so it has to be there banished already, and then you banish again and it triggers. Whereas this one is just during the main phase, you can trigger it as and when you please, as long as 2 have been sent to the graveyard, which can be quite helpful with the long one to help you trigger that. The only downside of these is because they're so high level 10s, they don't really synergize with your synchro plays much, but the idea is you're going to be using them to get into rank 10s, and that's where you're going to get additional protection, additional burn, you name it. So then on top of this one is if 2 or more you get to special summon it back from the graveyard, you get to place a Rui Sea Spires or you control to the bottom of the deck, and then your opponent banishes their entire hand, and if you do, they draw the same number of cards. So if you are going second, you can very easily just trigger off the chain, which is quite funny. Spires, you can only control Realm Spires, only control 1 of it, which is the exact same as all of them. Your Rui monsters cannot be destroyed by battle, and then Rui Pendulums, and then level 10 or higher that are original Sea Serpents gain the following effect during your opponent's turn. A quick effect, you get to place a Rui continuous spell you control to the bottom of the deck, and then target 1 card on the field and return it to the hand. I kind of skipped over the Dino one, but the Dino one, basically, all of your Rui monsters gain 300 attack, and then Rui pendulum monsters and level 10 or higher dinos gain the following effect, that when an effect of a monster effect is activated on the field that has attack less than that dino or that pendulum monster, you get to negate the activation. So if you do start going into dino synchro level 10s, that can also be quite helpful, which might be a little bit easier to do when we get the, it's not Evil Saw, but the Meteor Dragons basically being reprinted. And then, of course, you've got triple Rui Rising. So this is your quick play spell card, which lets you add any Rui monster from the deck to the hand. So activate this in the draw phase as it is quick play. It means it allows you to play around draw and not bed a little bit. So you add a Rui monster, which will get you into the Mistava, which leads you into everything else. You can then add a Rui pendulum monster from your hand to your face or extra deck, but it's very rare you're going to want to do that because you're basically searching out the Mistava, and then you're going to be doing that anyway. It then has an additional effect, but you can only use one effect per turn. The additional effect is during the main phase, if you control a Rui Pendulum monster, you get to banish this card and one Rui monster from your from your graveyard to special summon a Rui monster with the same original type as that banished monster from the deck. So it can allow you to banish the worm, it can allow you to banish the dino or the sea serpent, and then summon the same one from the deck, which is why you play 2 of each. The last one we play is the one Protoss. You can actually side this out if you want to, rather than maining it. But the other is the Swordsoul's can search into it. The Rui's can search into it as it is a worm. And on top of that, the benefit of something like this is this gives you the ability to kind of nuke your opponent's board, whether it be a fires, lights, earths, winds, you name it, you can kind of cover it. And then for the hand traps, we've got triple Ash Blossom, triple Imperm, and then double Veiler. So you can adapt your hand trap lineup as you see fit. You can put in more board breakers. You can make deck draw and Forbidden Droplet. That's the one downside of the Swordsoul version, is it is so big and vast. It's like 12 cards at least in the Rui engine, and then you're looking at like 12 cards, if not more, in the Swordsoul engine, maybe 15 to 20. So it leaves you very little space for hand traps or board breakers. But then the idea is you just have a lot of gas to keep going. Moving into the extra deck, we'll start with the Synchros, as that is where your ideal outcome is going to be coming from. So you've got the one Qinglong, and then of course you've got the one Chengying. So both of these are going to be your ideal cards to go for, because you've got a Disruption in Banishment, you've also got attack stat buff. This is going to be one of your burns. Now keep in mind, this can get a little bit degenerate because you have a 2400 burn off of the back of this card, you have a 1200 burn off of the back of the long one, and you can very easily make Gustav Max rather than a Vroodrash during your turn to burn them for another 2k. So the burn capabilities in this entire deck is absolutely insane. The only downside is that when you're trying to make Gustav Max, you do lock yourself into worms a little bit later on or a little bit earlier in the turn. So it does come a little bit more specific, but it's one of the ones that if your opponent doesn't clear anything off or you need to get more damage on the board, you can do very easily. We've got the one Chao Feng, so literally just a nicer, easier way to try and lock your opponent down if they are trying to go down the Nibiru route, but you don't need to play it, you can flex it out if you need to. Double Baxia, love this card, followed up by the one Yazi. Then of course you've got the one Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, you've got two Chi-Jiao, and then moving into your Link monsters, just standard in the form of the SP Little Knight and IP Masquerena. And then for your Reaperdonkus, this just helps you adapt the Protoss attribute, which can be very, very helpful depending on what you're trying to nuke, what you're trying to destroy, what you need to do. You don't have to play it. Again, flexible, cut it out. You don't need to lean into the Protoss that much. I would not be surprised if Protoss got hit on the ban list, because they've now gone, here you go, here's all of the reprints. We've reprinted it twice now. You can play with it for like half a month or a month, and now we're going to hit it. So I wouldn't make it a core center focus on your point. The one benefit of this is that you can easily shift to Barastos if you need to. And then for the rank 10s, we are playing the one Gustav Max, because degenerate, and then two Vroodrash as your defender. You can make these a little bit more consistent if you were to play two of the field spell rather than just one, but the idea is that if you can be a little bit more reserved in the card you're making, keeping in mind that you can actually overlay your Chengyings and your Qinglongs into this card as well. So if you feel that the Omni-Gate is more effective for you than the burn damage that it's going to provide, then you can overlay that very easily, and that will get you into the Vroodrash. So that's it for the entire profile. Hopefully it's given you an idea of how the deck looks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the deck plays. So we'll be back in a second once I've reset the board state and shown you the exact combo. So here's the one card combo for Swordsoul, and it can get even more insane if you do open up either Protoss or Muyi, and I'll explain that as we go. So you're going to activate the Mastava in its scale, you're going to destroy it in order to grab you the War Zone. You're then going to activate the War Zone, and this is going to allow you to send to the graveyard, banish one, and then add one between worms, dinos, and sea serpents. So you're going to want to send the dino to the graveyard, you're going to want to banish the sea serpent, and you're going to want to add the worm being Barastos, because it lets you add anything you want to. You'll then activate this second effect of the War Zone, allowing you to summon the Dino back from the grave, the Sea Serpent back from the Banished Zone, and it's going to allow you to summon the Worm directly from the deck. This now sets you up with two different attributes, and one of them at least being water, meaning you can trigger the Barastos. So you're going to activate the Barastos effect, destroy the water, and then you can destroy either of the Worm or, of course, the Dino. We're going to destroy the Worm just so we've got that guaranteed Worm in the graveyard. This will then allow you to trigger off the Mastava, which will get rid of the last one, because this will destroy this, summon itself back to the board because you destroyed a card with Barastos. You'll then be able to trigger the Mastava's effect, which will destroy the Barastos, but also resolve by getting itself the Worm Wind, which means you now have set up during your opponent's turn one-sided Macrocosmo. As Barastos is destroyed, this will allow you to summon a Worm from the deck, and the one you're going to want to summon will be your Tyre. Tyre will then use its effect, banishing a worm from the graveyard, so you can banish off either the Hakva, or of course you can banish the Barastos, it doesn't make much of a difference, and this will then allow you to spawn your Swordsoul token. Given I haven't used our normal summon and we still have 4 more cards in our hand, so they can be protectors, extenders, you name it. You're then going to synchro your Tyre with your token together, and this is going to get you into your Yugioh, you're now going to be able to trigger off your tire, which will send you your long one from deck to grave. It's not that relevant unless you're going to search out emergence or anything like that, and then you'd send the Moyi. So that's another way you can get direct access to your Moyi. I'm just showing you different ways to deck fin and then guaranteed to give you more of your Swordsoul cards. So the option is you can now very easily just grab the emergence, and at this point, because we don't have another worm in the hand or anything else like that to help reveal off of the back of Moyi, you can just go directly for a Protoss, and the Protoss will then give you the ability to trigger off more effects. So I'll show you what you're going to do there. So you activate that, search out your Protoss, and this does adapt depending on where you're trying to go. Like, you can get another Synchro, because rather than searching out Protoss, if you already had a worm in the hand or a Swordsoul card in the hand, you'd search out a Moyi. The other is you get to search out the Protoss because you control a Synchro. And now what you've got is you've got different attributes in the graveyard. So what you can very easily do is you can summon down the Protoss. The Protoss will then be able to banish 3 from the graveyard. So we'll banish a water, we'll banish the... Probably, this is where you kind of want it like this. So you banish that instead. And then you'd go banish the water, banish the earth, banish the fire. So that's your 3 different attributes. And because cards have now been banished, you can now also summon back the Hakvar. Because obviously, if you banish the Hakvar instead of the Brastos, you're pretty much setting up the Protoss play here. So now what you've got is you've got your Protoss on the board that could technically call light or wind or even dark, depending on what you're trying to lock down. You've got your one-sided macro, and you still have the 4 cards left in the hand. Now, if I rewind this a little bit, just by putting these all back into the graveyard, if I rewind this a little bit, and you've got your emergence, and you add just a single card to your hand, any worm in your entire deck into your hand, rather than searching out Protoss, you actually go for Moyi. And let's just say we have a random worm in our hand, which will be... First worm I find. There we go. We hard opened up the Hakvar, okay? So what you can do here is you search out your Moyi, you haven't used your normal summon. So you can now normal summon down your Moyi, use Moyi's effect to reveal the worm in the hand, spawn the second token, synchro these 2 off together, go into your Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. You then get to draw 1 card off the Moyi. So you've now replenished your entire hand, so you now have 5 in the hand as well. So you're either going to replenish your hand, you can go for Protoss with a very nice lock, and then if you were to open up Moyi already, and you were able to directly search out Protoss, what you'll get the ability for is you can actually banish and destroy a lot more, and you can add a Varudras to this end board as well. But that's going to come in a test hand video for this particular deck if you guys want to see it, just so you can see more of a randomized outcome, because I don't want to start adding in 2 to 3 card combos. I want to show you what you can do with a baseline 1 card combo, and the baseline 1 card combo in this particular deck is you set up your Mastava, which has the ability to reduce your opponent's attack to 0. You've got your Yugioh, which has the ability to banish and negate. You've got the continuous spell card, which will give you the ability for a one-sided macro Cosmo, and then off of the back of that as well is you're then going to have the ability of Protoss locking your opponent out of darks. And if you were to destroy the Rui Warzone when you summoned the Mastava as well, you can also give Mastava either the bounce effect or the negate and destroy the negate effect as well. So it gives you so much more you can play around with depending on which route you want to take it, which is what I absolutely love about this engine. I think it's so good for decks like this, and I can't wait to be updating dinos and everything else in between it as well. Anyway, I hope this is giving you a bit of an idea of how the deck operates and kind of a bit of an idea of what the deck will look like when you're trying to put it together. I do have incredible amounts of fun with this particular version of the deck. I also like the Invoke version. I just feel there's an additional line of synergy with this particular deck as well, which makes it so fun to play, and I can't wait to see where else it goes. Anyway, like I said, if you do have any more questions, put them in the comments down below. If you want to see a test stand combo video for this particular version of the deck, get the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, and I'll be more than happy to bring that for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.